Good afternoon, everyone. Blind Press back here with another live stream. Going to talk about the blind community today, and we're also going to look at a TEDx talk, because why the hell not? Last night, Pancalo and I tried to do something like this on the Blind and the Special, and we had a huge trouble with my circle. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to cover a different TEDx talk, and Pancalo and I will try and figure out how my circle works and do the other one, because I really want to hear Pancalo's take on the one that we were trying to watch. Now, before we get into the TEDx talk that, oh dear, that's loud. Pause. There we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to share the link here with everyone. So I've noticed a very disturbing trend, especially on blind Twitter. Yes, that's a thing. And what I've noticed is that there is a huge problem, apparently, with blind people who have either been born that way or lost their sight as very young children, getting just awful and nasty to people who are, losing their sight. Sorry, my phone my phone distracted me. One of the people that I know from Minions of the Zoo, which is a great group of people, is losing her sight, and she's in her 30s, and she's been running into a whole bunch of ridiculous crap on blind Twitter about how she's not, I guess, to simplify it, she's not the right type of blind for these people. It's depressing, honestly, to be part of a community that is so awful to a subset of the blind community, because eventually this woman will be blind. And honestly, to me, it doesn't matter whether she's blind as an adult or went blind as a child or born that way. Eventually, she's going to be blind. And it would really help if, blind people could, I don't want to say welcome people who are losing their sight later on in life, because that's really kind of twisted. Hey, welcome to the blind club. Glad to have you. That's not exactly what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is it would really behoove us as blind people who want, good treatment from the general public to perhaps extend the same wish that we would want good treatment onto others who are becoming blind. Like, I wish I had the screenshots from Twitter yesterday, because I was actually told that I was privileged by another blind person because I deigned to suggest that perhaps disabled people in the developed world, while we do have barriers to overcome, perhaps we have less barriers to overcome than a disabled person, say, in the middle of Africa, or, in a culture where it's still taboo and it's still not understood as well. And apparently that makes me privileged, that I appreciate what I have. And yeah, but it's It's really hard, and today's TEDx talk that I'll be responding to is also going to be difficult to respond to because this person who gave the TEDx talk lost her vision in her 20s. So she saw for her whole life up until then. But she won MasterChef. So it's not like she let it stop her. So I think we'll just take a listen to this talk and we'll see what it says here. And what I'll do is, oops. What I will do is I will get that pulled up like I did with the screen readers, and we will listen to it and I will pause and comment. So we'll just search this out here. How the blind see the world. TEDx talk. Let's see. Because that's what it's called. How the blind see the world. Okay, so let me get this. I gotta get back to the beginning here. Sorry, I was listening to this video to see whether it would be worth responding to, and it left me where I was instead of at the beginning. So I'm just trying to get back to the beginning of this TED Talk. It's 23 minutes. Pause. Okay, let's pause that, and I will get my headphones out so that everyone can hear. And okay, let's respond to this. So just to give a bit of an introduction, Christine Hall won MasterChef, I want to say 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. I watched that season. So let's play here and see what this is about.
Press pause button.
She's just walking down.
My parents came here from Vietnam in 1975. They came in the aftermath of a war which many Americans disapproved of at the time, so they tried hard not to rock the boat. They had me some years later, actually right here in Southern California, and they tried to raise me with the same Asian values that they were raised with: meekness, humility, and obedience. And they taught me not to complain.
Press play. Now that sentence is very important. They taught me not to complain. Keep that in mind as you listen to this talk.
Press pause. When I would grumble about having a mean bus driver in elementary school, my parents told me stories about how they had to walk to school for miles and miles through the snow, carrying loads of books on their backs. And my smart-ass response was, I don't think it snowed in Saigon, Mom and Dad. When I would complain that I couldn't go outside to play with my friends and instead had to stay indoors and work on fifth grade math problems when I was like in second grade, my parents said they couldn't go outside at all because the Viet Cong were bombing their cities. So I learned to just stop complaining and I just shut up. I actually came here today. My husband says, if you ask him, that I complain a lot. So he has a whole different take on this story. And it was in fact his idea that I come here today and complain to all of you instead, because I think he was tired of listening to me complain at home.
Press play. Now, I've listened to this part of this video. I've listened to about 10 minutes of it. I'm with him. I'm with him. You'll see why.
Press pause. So here's my chance. I'm going to stand up here and complain to all of you and hope that you listen. So here I am, and here are my grievances. Gripe number 1, Shopping sucks when you're blind.
Press play.
Okay. Yes and no. Yes and no. Shopping can when you're blind. Definitely. Let's hear from her why she says it sucks.
The nature of the business I'm in, I do a lot of public speaking, and I have my own cooking show called Four Senses. So I'm in the public eye, I'm in front of people, I'm in front of cameras a lot of the time, and I have to care about how I look. And let me dispel a myth for you, all of you here, right and right now, that just because I can't see how I look doesn't mean I don't care how I look.
Press play.
This is very true. I'll give her that. I know that I care that I match. That's why I tend to buy darker clothes, because A, I like dark colors like black and dark blues and stuff like that. But B, it's a hell of a lot easier to match dark with dark. Sorry, just grabbing a swig of coffee here. But it is much easier to match dark with dark. So that's one of the reasons why I wear dark clothes. But let's continue on here and see what she has to say.
Press pop.
You know, if I wish I could not care. I mean, if I had my choice, I would be up here right now in my pajamas and barefoot, probably giving this talk, but I do have to care. It's socially acceptable for me to care. And unfortunately, I'm not rich enough yet to have my own hair, makeup, and wardrobe team follow me everywhere I go. So most of the time, I'm doing my own hair, putting on my own makeup, and dressing myself.
Press.
Now, yes, blind people do their own makeup. I personally don't wear makeup. Even before I had kids, I didn't really do makeup. But I do know that there are some blind people who do makeup. They label their the different colors of their eyeshadows and lipsticks, and like they have some of them organize their makeup cases differently so that they can remember where it is. Some people who have had vision and then lost their vision find it a bit easier to put on makeup because it's from memory. So that's kind of cool. So this person would have some memory of what it was like to put on makeup and do her hair. I think actually in a different interview, I should find that, that she gave just after winning MasterChef. I think she talked about that. So let's continue on here.
Press.
So, did I do okay today?
Of course, you need your self.
Before I lost my vision, I read a lot of fashion magazines, and I love to shop. And these are probably habits that I picked up from my mom, who actually turned an entire room of our 3-bedroom home when I was growing up into her own personal walk-in closet. And of course, after I lost my vision, it wasn't that I stopped loving to shop, but I had to figure out a new way to do it. Malls were crowded. I was afraid of escalators. As you can imagine, that's a challenge for someone who can't see. So I kind of
wait, stop. Stop. It's a challenge for you. I don't know why you're afraid of an escalator. I'm sorry that you're afraid of the escalator, but I'm going to tell you right now that not every blind person is afraid of escalators, and it's not always a challenge for every blind person to do an escalator. So while that may be this woman's one of this woman's issues with shopping in a mall, I'm going to tell you right now that not every blind person is going to see an escalator and be afraid of an escalator. That's one of the things that caught my attention the other day when I was watching this, is when she said, naturally, it's a thing that blind people would have a challenge with. No, that's not naturally something that a blind person would have a problem with. Whether or not something happened in this person's life in particular to make them wary of an escalator, I don't know. So I'm not going to totally dismiss her and say that's retarded. But I am going to stop and say that escalator does not equal huge, frightening challenge for every blind person. Now, there are some blind people who have balance issues because they have other disabilities on top of their blindness. So I could see why maybe an escalator would be difficult for them. But to say that in general, an escalator is a challenge for a blind person is a bit broad. And that's where these misconceptions keep coming in, is because everyone is different. So it's hard when people talk about blindness misconceptions, because it's always going to be different depending on the blind person that's talking. So that's why when I'm responding to this video, I'm very careful to point out some of the things that she's saying, which are generalizations. And honestly, why I try not to do the list of things not to say to blind people or things that are misconceptions about blind people, because sometimes those misconceptions for one person could be actually spot on for another person. So for me, the statement that escalators are challenging for blind people is wrong. However, it could be that something happened to her that makes them a challenge for her. So I'm going to say instead that making that statement as generally as you did is wrong. So let's continue.
Press pause.
Altogether. And luckily, at the time that I was losing my vision, cyber shopping became much more mainstream. But unfortunately for me, not being able to see the two-dimensional nature of online shopping, not being able to feel the fabric or touch the cut of a dress and know what it looks like, it was hard for me to figure out what it was that I was quote unquote looking at. Neuroscientific research actually shows that when a person loses their vision, their brain reorganizes itself so that the other four senses become more dominant. So for example, when a person learns to read Braille, the part of the cerebral cortex that once received and processed nerve impulses from the eyes rewires itself so that it starts receiving and processing nerve impulses from the fingertips.
This is actually true. It's really cool how the brain works. So a blind person's visual cortex is still active even though they're not receiving visual impulses from the brain, which is really interesting, which is why the possibility exists if the neurosurgery were to become advanced enough to learn how to reconnect the optic nerve, and stem cell research were to advance enough to grow eyes, I could possibly see again. But that's still a fairly long way off. But it is true that the brain does rewire itself like that, and that's really, really cool.
A lot of people ask me after I've lost my vision if my senses have heightened, and if that's how I've been able to cook on MasterChef and how I have this extraordinary palate like Gordon Ramsay says. And in actuality, I wouldn't say that my senses are better per se, but I will say that I'm much more sensitive to what my ears, my nose, my tongue, and my fingers take in, because this is the new paradigm through which I have to take in this world.
Did you really have to say like Gordon Ramsay says? I know it's really cool that Gordon Ramsay says you have a phenomenal palate, but you won MasterChef. Did you really have to throw that in there? You know what? I would too. If Gordon Ramsay said that to me, I think I would fangirl a little bit, but I don't know. That just sounded kind of name droppy. But yeah, it's true. I wouldn't say that the senses have gotten better. I think it's just that the brain has rewired itself to compensate. I think that's the best way to describe it. So yeah.
Press pause.
Because I can't see or hear or smell or taste or touch the clothes through the computer monitor, online shopping still remains a challenge. there's often times when I would use my screen reader to read item descriptions and they're not very clear or very helpful. And the worst is when a brand would use very convoluted names for their colors, like mildew and LSD. I mean, how much?
Press play button.
That's true. That is absolutely true. I'll give her that right now. The more obscure your color names are, the harder it's going to be. Like, seriously. Wow. Speaking of blind community drama, anyway, we'll deal with that in a minute. Maybe I will show those screenshots. I don't know. He's not really worth it. But yeah, it's online shopping is harder. If you find a good store with good website developers, you're gonna be okay. But there are still a lot of barriers to cross in the online world. So you know what? I'll give her that too. Like, there are some of the things that she says I don't disagree with at all, and that's fine. Like, not all of my videos are gonna be about, oh, this is stupid, blah blah blah. But I just wanted to do this stream today because it's been really bothering me, the I don't even know how to describe just the vitriol that's been coming out of the blind community. And I wanted to do a stream where I looked at this TED Talk from someone who lost their sight later in life, because I wanted to see their perspective, and I wanted to see, like, how to discuss things that I don't agree with without calling them, without being a freaking awful person. Because when blind people tell someone who's losing their sight that they're a troll, or a sighted troll who hates the blind community and is a disgrace to the blind community, like, that's just fucked up. So we'll continue on with this TED Talk, and I think this is going to keep coming up. So sorry about that, but it really bothered me.
Press.
Know what that is, right? Like, I'm picturing a rainbow. I don't really know. So that's difficult. My wish is that developers and programmers would follow good programming practices and use proper HTML and tag it, so that I can, for example, use my screen reader to navigate through headers and find this checkout button. And if you're in e-commerce, you know exactly how important it is for a consumer like myself to be able to find and click on that checkout button. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 was amended in 1998 to include Section 508, which is a mandate that required federal agencies to make their electronic and information technologies accessible to people with disabilities. And this was 17 years ago. Think about that. 17 years ago, and it was only required of the government. And I feel like this mandate should be expanded to make it required of everyone, not just the government.
Press play.
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. If things are going to be technologically driven, we do need to have some more mandates and stuff that govern access. But what's really funny to me is how it's awesome how robust the ADA is, Americans with Disabilities Act. I wish that Canada had a more comprehensive act like that. But it's so funny that, like, it sucks that people with disabilities have to, like, memorize this whole act, because when they're rightfully citing it, like, with, like as she just did, they unfortunately start sounding like a sovereign citizen, because you got to start citing laws and shit like that. Except in this case, they actually have a freaking case. Like, it's just that you have all these dumbass sovereign citizens running around citing stupid things that when a disabled person starts to do it, they sound just as bad, but really they actually have a reason and a case for citing a law like that. It kind of sucks. See, sovereign citizens, they ruin it for everybody.
Press.
Conversation that we've been having a lot in the media lately about equality, this needs to include the dialogue with people with disabilities. And you know, I think about that a lot. And I also think about how we would be upset, for example, if a particular business barred women or the LGBT or Asians from shopping at their stores. It's kind of the same thing. If you put yourself in my shoes right now, as a visually impaired person, I'm barred from many online stores because it's not accessible. I'm barred from viewing many websites or using a lot of web apps simply because they're inaccessible.
Yes, this is very true. However, we really have to start, we have to think for a second. And we need to say, is this happening because people don't like blind people, or is it happening because of lack of education? Because whenever I hear saying things like, oh, well, you wouldn't bar a gay person from shopping, or you wouldn't bar a woman from shopping, or an Asian from shopping because they're a woman or Asian or gay. But these people aren't writing a website going, ha ha, we're going to write this website so blind people specifically cannot shop here. Fuck the blind. No, that's no. And we really need to get away from that attitude, because I really don't think that that's what it is. I think it's a lack of education and a lack of understanding. And the more that we as disabled people, instead of just trying to calmly talk to these people, the more we're going to get ignored. And I keep seeing a whole bunch of reing going on, and then a whole bunch of wondering why nothing's getting done. And it's like, well, do you really want to pay attention to the screaming child that's deafening you, or do you want to wait for them to calm down and speak to you properly? Because if you're going to act like a child, you're going to get treated like one. And I'm going to say that to any group of people. Yeah, see, Captain Brambles, you're absolutely right. It is a lack of education. I highly doubt that there are web developers going, ha ha ha, let's fuck these blind people. They shouldn't shop online. Like, I think that's rather a hyperbolic statement to make, or a comparison to make, and that was what I was trying to get across yesterday, actually, on Twitter. But yeah, I keep going back to blind Twitter because that's where I keep seeing all this reeing going on, because the internet provides rears with a platform that it's like the old soapboxes, except now they're everywhere because everyone has one. And honestly, you know, some people might say, oh, well, let's deplatform these people. No, let them show people how retarded they are. Let the people with better ideas come and have discourse with them, because then the better ideas will get dispelled throughout the social media, and the better ideas, discourse always is a good way of exposing bad ideas. Always. So let's continue on with this.
So that was my first gripe. My gripe number 2 is entertainment and television sucks when you're blind.
Press.
Well, that's a sweeping statement. Let's let her continue a little bit more before I cut this apart.
Press pop.
So ever since being on MasterChef, a lot of people tell me that I'm like the real life Daredevil. And for those of you who don't know, Daredevil is a superhero character who's also blind. And I haven't read a comic book in years, but when Daredevil came out on Netflix last month, I decided to sit down and try to tune in, because I kind of wanted to see like who this dude was that everyone kept comparing me to. So I tried to watch it, and it was difficult for me to follow because there's a lot of action going on. It was hard for me to figure out like whose voice belonged to whom, and I was annoying my husband because I kept talking over the show.
Well, okay. This is going to sound really mean, and I don't mean it to sound really mean, but I used to do this too. Before described video got really good. You need to just stop talking. It's not impossible to follow a show without described video. It's not impossible to follow an action show. And it's quite possible that your husband just isn't a great describer. Some people just don't do well at describing things and they get frustrated. So it sounds like you ran into an issue of your husband's not that great at describing what's going on and he would just rather like to watch it. And it sounds like you don't have very much patience. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because sometimes you can use that lack of patience to get shit done. But of course, you're going to miss what's going on if you keep talking and asking who's talking, what's happening, what's like. You can't just say entertainment sucks for blind people and then turn around and say, I couldn't follow one show. My one example that I couldn't follow because I kept talking and asking questions. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I've done that. But there is a point where you have to just stop asking questions and listen and wait till the end of the show or wait till the end of the episode and ask what happened, like, just because it can be followed. You really can. If there's dialogue and like action scene, and this is from a couple years ago because it said Daredevil came out last month, which isn't true. It's this TED Talks from 2016. So Daredevil would have just come out. But still, it's kind of frustrating to hear a blind person say that because, again, you've got to help yourself a little bit. And sometimes asking questions ad nauseum isn't helping yourself because you're not sitting and utilizing your ears and trying to piece what's going on together and then getting the blanks filled in. Because while you do want to know what's going on in a television show or a movie, you also have to understand that the sighted person you're watching it with may not have seen it yet. So they don't know what's going on. So they can't describe it to you because they haven't seen it yet. And you're talking and they're missing parts of the show that maybe they could help you with. So you just gotta, it's a balancing act between your patience and your desire to know what's going on. It's hard, I know, but you can't just say entertainment sucks for blind people because you don't have the patience to wait. That's a very generalizing statement. Especially now that described video is all over Netflix. But I think she's about to make that statement. Let's see.
Press.
And it was just very difficult. And I wasn't the only one that noticed this irony. The fact that I was, someone who's blind, and I couldn't follow a show or enjoy a show about another person who's blind. And there was a petition that I'm sure some of you have heard about that was created after the season premiered, and it was about wanting to make Netflix to make the show accessible by adding audio description. And fortunately, Netflix followed suit, and they not only added audio description to Daredevil, but to also all of its other original programming. And that's a good thing because I've been watching House of Cards, and that's kind of hard to follow when you're just listening to dialogue and a lot of silent scenes and you don't know what's going on. So
Press play.
So then how can you say entertainment sucks for blind people? Intelligent television sucks for blind people. You just said Netflix was petitioned to make Daredevil described video, and not only did they make Daredevil described video, but they put all their original programs in described video, and now 2 years later they're working with all the studios of the shows that they didn't write. Like they're working with Fox and NBC and all those studios of all the shows that they have on Netflix, and they're starting to add described video to those. And on cable television, there's more described video now. And like, you can't, like, yes, it used to suck for blind people because it was a lot harder to follow. And yes, you did have to ask your sighted peers what was going on. But slowly but surely, things are getting better, and it does take time. You can't just sit there and keep bitching that things suck when things are changing. You just said things are changing, but you started your gripe with entertainment and television sucks for blind people. But here's this billion-dollar service that's making things accessible for blind people. But entertainment sucks for blind people. Pick one. I'm sorry, but pick one.
Press.
That's been nice. And my show, Four Senses, is a cooking show, and it originally airs on AMI, or Accessible Media Inc. And what AMI does, it's a network that's completely dedicated to providing television for the hearing and vision impaired. So it makes inclusive entertainment for everyone. And I love AMI and what its mission is and what it stands for, but I wish that it wouldn't be the sole responsibility of a single network to bring inclusive entertainment for all. I feel like this should be something that all production companies and all networks are responsible for.
It is, and they are. You just said Netflix did it. If you go to a movie theater, there are things you can request. You can request a described video. Like you can request headphones and have described video play for you for a movie. Studios are providing described video. It's not just on AMI, it's on cable television as well. You cannot say that this one network, which I have heard of and watched, by the way, AMI, you cannot say that it is solely dependent on this one network to bring described video and closed captioning to the deaf and blind. That is absolutely ridiculous, and you know it is because you've just said that Netflix answered the petition and made Daredevil and all its original programming accessible. So, again, pick one. Pick one, please. This is my problem with wishy-washiness. It sucks, but oh, look at all this stuff that's happening. Like, no. Either there is no described video anywhere for blind people except AMI, or times are changing, people are working hard to make things accessible for us. Pick one.
Press.
And it should be shared. So remember that just because someone is blind doesn't mean they don't enjoy art and pop culture. And when my friends sit down to talk about Don Draper and what's going to happen next on Mad Men, I want to be able to join in on that conversation as well. So that's my gripe number 2. So my first gripe was about making technology accessible. My second gripe was about making entertainment accessible. You guys see where I'm going here? in the theme of TED. So before I go into my next gripe, actually, I'm going to do a little exercise with all of you. So I want you to all put yourself in my shoes. So close your eyes, everyone in the audience, and don't lie to me just because I'm lying. Once your eyes are closed, I want you to take your phone and then try to take either a selfie or a picture of me and Instagram it and tag me. I'm the blind cook. Can you guys do it? Welcome to my world, guys.
Press.
Yeah, because that's accurate, because there's no such thing as a smartphone that talks. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute here. Wait a minute. What's this in my hand? Oh, I think that's a talking smartphone. Isn't that awesome, guys? That's been around since before this TEDx talk. What the fuck was that exercise supposed to prove? Like, I know you lost your vision in your 20s. I know that you had some barriers to overcome because you remember seeing you, like, how is that supposed to show anyone anything? Close your eyes, use your phone to take a selfie or take a picture of me. A blind person with an iPhone or an Android phone could have been doing that since like before you won MasterChef. Just saying. Just saying. Bad example. Not helpful.
Anyone? All right. I'll stop you guys there, so you don't have to be miserable this whole time. Did anyone succeed? Don't raise your hand. Just make a sound so I can't see you. No one? All right. Now you know what it's like to live my world.
Press.
So you don't have a smartphone. You just said you had a screen reader like 5 minutes ago. So how is that your world? Okay, now I'm getting angry. Because I was trying to be like tactful and understanding. I was trying not to be like one of those blind people from birth that's like, ah, fuck you, you lost your sight later on in life, blah. But your example sucks. I'm sorry, it sucks. That's not how it works.
Press.
So my third gripe number 3, this world is not designed to include the blind. As you just experienced and learned, social media is very difficult for not being able to see. And I'm actually very active on social media. That's how I stay in touch with my fans. That's how I let people know what I'm doing. It's difficult. Even coming here to do this talk, you saw me walk on stage with my cane and I was being guided, and it was hard not to fall, make sure I don't fall in these heels and make sure I
So, wait, let's let her finish.
Press.
a circular rug that I'm on and make sure I'm facing the audience, and that's difficult. Even traveling here to San Diego from my hometown of Houston, that was difficult. Next time,
Press play button. Press pause button.
Put yourself in my shoes and close your eyes and see how you can get through security checkpoint without leaving anything behind or having people annoyed with you for being a little slower. And then try to find the public restroom in the airport with your eyes closed, and then try to find a stall and try to find the toilet paper, put the seat cover down, and find the flusher, all with your eyes closed. And you know that.
Press play.
That is why you are supposed to get something called orientation and mobility when you lose your sight. Now, I don't know how readily available that is in the States, but they teach you how to orientate yourself in situations, like unfamiliar situations. They teach you how to use your cane. They teach you how to problem solve in unfamiliar places. It's not like you're born blind and you're like, okay, off you go. Fuck you. You're off to the wolves. Nobody cares. You are taught how to orient yourself, and it sounds like you either didn't take advantage of that service or didn't know about that service, or I don't know, but yeah, you know what? This world isn't specifically designed for blind people because we're the minority, unfortunately, and people are trying to make it more accessible for us, which is great, but to expect that we should have a world specifically designed for us is a little presumptuous. Like, I would suggest that things should be done to make it a bit more equal and a bit more accessible, but to expect a world designed for blind people in a society mostly full of sighted people is a little weird. I don't quite understand that logic. Like, of course, this world is not going to be specifically designed for the blind. The blind are the minority. Should it be accessible for us? Yes. Are people working to do that? Yes. Should we be included in those discussions? Absolutely. But does it mean that we aren't? Does it mean that, we're just thrown to the wolves? No. Absolutely not. In our Western society, blind people are very lucky. I have known some blind people who have come to Canada from different countries, and they hadn't set foot in a school because they were blind, and they were told that they aren't worth educating. And like, we have it so good here. Like, we have this technology. We have access to white canes and guide dogs and braille, and we're allowed to go to school. We're encouraged to go to school. It's the law that we go to school. Not because we're blind, but because in our society, children go to school. So I think perhaps what you meant to say was this world is still not fully accessible for blind people. Not that this world is not designed for blind people, because it's not supposed to be designed for blind people. We don't live on a planet full of blind people. Unfortunately, in society, well, not unfortunately. People in society are all different. That's what makes society a society. It's a collection of different people. And you cannot just expect, it's so presumptuous to expect that you're going to have a world designed just for you when you're the minority. No, you need to learn. Like, yes, things have to be a bit more accessible for us, but we also have to learn how to adapt. Blind people are great at that. Most disabled people are great at that. Most humans are great at that. That's why we evolved. That's why we survived. You cannot just expect things to be handed to you. That's not how life works. And I don't want to get too into race here, but from how you said your parents were hardworking and they taught you their values, you should know that. I'm not even going with the Asian thing here. Your parents, you said that they were hardworking, they were meek, and they didn't want to complain very much, and they didn't want to rock the boat. But what is this that you're doing now?
Press pop.
When you can't see, you're imagining the worst, that everything's like covered in feces, right? So you have to think about that, like how stressful that is. And then afterwards you try to find the sink, and then you paper towel or the hand dryer. It's all very stressful.
No, it isn't.
And even something like eating, it's one of my favorite things to do that we all have to do to stay alive and sustain ourselves. Even that is often stressful. When you're in a restaurant, next time close your eyes and see how many times you forget that there's a straw in your water and you poke yourself in the eye or in the nose. I do that all the time, and it's embarrassing. And order some sushi and try to eat it with chopsticks and see how often that lands in your lap instead of your
Press play button.
Okay, chopsticks I'll give her. Chopsticks, I just say screw it. I've tried to learn how to use chopsticks, doesn't work. The poking yourself in the face with a straw thing, that sounds more like a going blind later on in life thing, where you're used to seeing what's going on and you just forget. Like, those are things that, again, that's a generalization, that because you've lost your sight later on, you think that this is what happens to every blind person. But no, you are still being accustomed to losing your sight. It's gonna take a while. You've been blind for, I think you said, 2 years before MasterChef, and so I think it's been about 10, 12 years now that you've been blind. So it's gonna take a while. But not every blind person has that issue in a restaurant. Like, we will have other issues, like cutting meat, for example, is sometimes hard. But you can't just sit there and be constantly embarrassed. Like, you have to overcome that, and it's hard. It's hard as hell. But you can't be stuck in things are embarrassing this way, so that's just how it's gonna be. No, you gotta try and do things a little differently. You got to try and adapt. You got to try and figure out how to make things easier for you. And it sucks that that's how it is. And I'm probably going to get called ableist for saying it, but we have kind of a duty to understand that while things are being made accessible for us, that we also have to learn things. We also have to, like, we can't just expect things to be handed to us because we can't see, and then turn around and be like, stop handing things to me because I can't see. I want to be independent, blah, 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 blah. No. No, you have to have it. You can't have it both ways. Either you want things to be accessible, which means it's going to take time and you're going to have to adapt, or you just want everything handed to you on a silver platter, in which case you may as well just give up your cooking show and go back and live at home and have everything brought to you. Which I can tell by this talk is not what you want. So, like, yeah, being blind is hard. No, you're right, Captain Brambles. It doesn't help to get yourself stuck in self-pity, which is what it feels like she's stuck in. Which, again, losing your sight later on in life, I can't imagine having to go through that. Remembering being able to see and the trauma of not seeing anymore. I can't imagine that. Of course, as Mickey Mouse said, if you don't succeed, try again. Absolutely right, Captain Brambles. Absolutely right. Well, let's see what she has to say some more.
Press pause.
Or try to see if you can tell which is the rice and which is the wasabi. And I've actually done that quite a few times, and it's not fun. So these are things that I go through, or other visually impaired people go through as well. And it's all funny now to me, and you know, these blind misadventures that I have, but it wasn't always kind of a funny thing. It took me a while to adjust to this because I wasn't born blind. When you're young, you think you're invincible. And I was in college at the time when I had my first experience with optic neuritis, or NMO, or optic nerve inflammation. And I was 20, and like many of you, I was in college. And at the time, I didn't think that I would ever go blind, or even if I did, I didn't think it would be something that would happen until I was in my 80s. And here I was, 20 years old in college, and I thought that this wasn't really fair. I thought I was exempt from these sorts of things. I thought, if anything, in college, I should only be worrying about boys and final exams and which part of my body to pierce next, and not something as like serious and chronic as blindness. But here I was, 20 years old, losing my vision. And I was put through a battery of tests, from MRIs to spinal tap to a lot of blood work, to try to figure out what was wrong with me. And the doctors took a long time to figure it out. At first, they thought I had multiple sclerosis, so I was put on a treatment plan that involved daily injections that I had to give to myself. And then they noticed that that didn't work, because regardless of the treatments, I was still having attack after attack. And it wasn't until I was 23 years old that I was officially and correctly diagnosed with neuromyelitis optica, or NMO. What NMO is?
Press play button.
See, that sucks right there. I'm not going to pretend that I know what any of that is like, because I don't. I was 6 months old when I lost my sight. I don't remember seeing. Like, consciously, I don't remember seeing. So I am not even going to try to pretend that I know what that's like. But in the same vein, don't act like you said, those some of the things that you went through, other visually impaired people go through. Visually impaired means that you have some vision to be impaired. People who are born blind, they have other issues that they go through, and they're a bit different from people who have lost their sight later on in life. So when people like this do TEDx talks, and it's very strange, because sighted people tend to only want to hear from blind people who did see at one point. sorry, what was I saying? Sighted people tend to only want to hear from blind people who could see at one point, so they tend to be invited to talks like this. It's very rare that you'll find a big famous, like a TEDx talk or a TED talk that's got someone who's been blind from birth. And I think it's because a sighted person has the fear of, oh my God, this could be me. And maybe it's a bit more approachable and a bit more relatable to see a blind person and listen to them if they have seen at some point. Now, the title of this TEDx talk should be How I See the World. Because the way that she's putting this out there is that all blind people are afraid of escalators. All blind people poke themselves in the face with their drink straws. All blind people get stressed out when they go to public bathrooms. And all blind people think that there's shit all over the toilet seat all the time. And all blind people think that entertainment sucks. Like, this is how she's making us seem, and this is how she sees things. And this is why when I try to do my blindness videos, I try to word it like, this is from my perspective. I don't try to speak for other blind people because I don't know what their experiences are. I'm getting a phone call.
Link image. Watch. Play button.
So here, let's just, how
Link
far
button.
is left?
85% volume. 13. 32.
Oh my
/23.
God.
80. Play
We
button.
still have 10 minutes.
You are currently on a press pause.
Is a rare autoimmune disease that affects the neurological system, primarily the optic nerves and the spinal cord. And I've been fortunate that I've been relapse free for about 8 years once the doctors figured out that I had NMO and put me on a treatment plan that worked for me. But before that, before my NMO was stabilized, I went through a lot of attacks. Year after year, month after month, there was just attack after attack. My worst one happened in 2002, and I was going over a course of 4 days from being a fully functioning adult, being able to walk and do everything, seeing okay, for the most part. I think at the time, like, one of my eyes was bad, but the other one was fine. I went from being a fully functioning adult to completely paralyzed from my neck down. And it was a hard time for me to understand because I went from fully functioning to all of a sudden being this adult mind that was trapped in an infant's body. And no matter how hard I willed for, like, my big toe to move, it wouldn't. And it was frustrating for me, to say the least, especially because I've been such an independent person all of my life. And it was hard, and I was in the hospital, and I was put on a lot of drugs. The doctors put me on seizure medication because my muscles were cramping a lot. They put me on morphine because I was in pain, and they put me on corticosteroids, which helps with inflammation, and they were trying to figure out how to stop this attack. And I underwent a lot of physical and occupational therapy. And the worst was that at the same time, I was still experiencing bouts of optic neuritis. So there were weeks at a time when I would be laid up in bed and unable to see, unable to move, and unable to sleep because all of the drugs I was on was causing insomnia. So I had a lot of time to think, and that can be very scary. I thought about how things that once seemed so simple, like being able to open a door or use the restroom by myself, now had become so suddenly monumentally difficult.
Press play.
And see, and this is where it gets into experiences are always different for everyone. And like, I, again, couldn't imagine going through that. I couldn't, especially as an adult. But the whole beginning part of her talk focused on only negative things, and then she before she started describing her condition, said that this is how this is how me and visually impaired people see the world. That's a dangerous statement, because it then puts us in saying that we're just a negative bunch of people. And when you look at blind Twitter and some of the things that my friend from Minions of the Zoo has been told over the past week, you can tend to see why people have this misconception that blind people are just angry, entitled people. And it's very frustrating because that's not the case. Now I'm gonna end this where we are, unfortunately, because I've got to go check on my little one and return a phone call. Um, but, and I think she's describing her condition, and so I don't, yeah, exactly. Oh, all right, Pincalo, I was about to end anyways. Um, but she's just describing her condition right now. So I think her gripes are over, and that's what I wanted to deal with. Was I wanted to talk about how you can't come up with these gripes and then say that this is how all blind people see things. That's not. This is why I try very hard not to do that. And this is why I get so angry when I see blind people from birth telling sighted people, or telling blind people who are losing their sight, or people who are losing their sight as adults, that they're just a disgrace to the blind community. And because it's the same, it's two sides of the same coin. You've got this blind person here that we were just talking about being negative, and then seeing this is how all blind people see the world. And then you've got a blind person from birth basically saying, F you, you weren't blind from birth, so therefore you're not part of my community. And it's the same negative side of the coin, and it's dangerous. And we have, it's beyond hubris to sit there and demand equal treatment and then turn around and be a shitbag to somebody who's losing their sight because they weren't born blind like you were. It is beyond hypocritical. It is beyond anything. And it makes me ashamed to be part of a blindness community, and why I want to kind of distance myself from it, because it's not the more I look, the more I see it, and it's way more prevalent than I thought, and it's very upsetting. And that's why I did this stream, because I just couldn't get it. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and it wouldn't leave me alone. So I figured I would do this little stream while my little one was asleep and my big one was out riding horses. I hope he had a good time. Thank you to those who came and watched. I know it's Father's Day, so there's probably a bunch of things going on. But I just had to talk about this because it's been bothering me for a few days. So thank you for tuning in. And if anyone who's watching now was watching The Blind and the Special last night, apologies. We will try and figure it out. If anyone has any ideas on how to make my circle work, please please DM either Pinkalo or myself on Twitter. And happy Father's Day to everyone out there who is a dad. Thank you again for tuning in, and this is the end.